I just drank a whole glass of cum!
What?
Max Gilardi has been creating cartoons of the internet for about 20 years, so literally more than half of his life. Over this time, he's made contents both acclaimed and controversial. So with this video, I wanted to delve into his works both past and present, think about what it means to have a legacy, as well as to see if the past can truly affect one's future, and if a funny ghost can help ease things along the way.
This discussion is going to be very... What?
Hello, I'm Ryan. And I'm gonna be talking about some demons, some hot diggity demons. Oh, also I interviewed him. Yep, Max is a 35-year-old artist born in Massachusetts, America. Some of his inspirations would be The Simpsons, The Powerpuff Girls, Ren and Stimpy, and Mega 64. Oh, and sitcoms. His favorite being Everyone Loves Raymond. His earliest works would be seen on Newgrounds, with the first animation releasing November 14, 2003. This is at a time when you couldn't, like, pause animations on the website, so you had to sit your ass down and appreciate without any interruptions. Of his earliest animations, there are two series he tried pursuing, one called Adam Android and the other Spookyville, though neither would get past a second episode. And it wouldn't be until 2007 would his first critically acclaimed series release. Jerry would follow the titular character through his very depressing life, though he at least went to heaven, so that's good. 2 years later on April 1st, he released a Redux version of the cartoon. In this one, he dubbed it with a Jerry Seinfeld voice, making observational jokes in the style of the same comedian.
What's up with alarm clocks? I mean, what are they so alarmed about? They should learn to settle down and enjoy life.
His next animated series, Wacky Game Jokes for Kids, or WGJ4K, would be a lot more comedic in tone. It revolved around criminal Mickey, who is kidnapped by a corporation, forcing him to make video game parodies. And this is despite the fact that he hates video games. This would be alongside Eric and June. For a fun fact, Max wrote June as the former host of Glam. Remember that show? I don't.
Huh? What do you think of this? Okay? How about that? How does this strike you? Does this strike you well? Does this tickle your funny bone? This is funny to you? You like this? You enjoy my humorous stylings?
While Jerry remains up on his channel, Max would privatize Wacky Game Jokes for Kids, citing his distaste for the series. Well, everything except for the promos.
Jerry, I don't think I dislike that quite as much as I dislike Wacky Game Jokes now. I almost feel like Jerry was just a series of cartoons that didn't really have any kind of meaningful commentary to add. It was just kind of like, you know, like an interesting little piece of editing, really. I maybe wanted to try out like some new editing techniques or something. I don't know. I tend to think that all of my stuff is like pretty on the surface. It's always open for interpretation, but there are really only so many interpretations you can have, if that makes sense.
The show would end with 10 episodes and only one season, still on Newgrounds. Cameos of contemporary figures would appear from the series, such as Aaron Hansen, Harry Partridge, and Tom Fulp, the creator of Newgrounds. Although he has distaste for the series, a lot of his fans still have fond memories of the show, even in recent years, still wanting it back.
I guess, in a sense, it was what everything for me has always been, which is just like me trying to make something that I would like to watch. I don't think it was a parody of anything in particular. It's probably a little too mean-spirited by my standards today in terms of what I enjoy. You know, like at the time, I guess, you know, when I would make Wacky Game Jokes, I wish like I could turn on TV and watch something like this. That's really all I ever try to do, is just make stuff that I like. I'm just trying to entertain myself. And if the audience is also entertained by it, then that's perfect. It's not the kind of thing that I would make today by any reasonable metric, but like your friend said, it got me where I am.
During this time, he briefly attended the Art Institute of Boston before dropping out. This was due to him not getting the education he thought he'd be getting from the college. And in 2011, something very surprising happened. Max was contacted by Nickelodeon, and they asked him to pitch some shows to the network, one even featuring a character called Fishworth, who was in love with a librarian. However, the talks didn't really go anywhere.
It was weird because they kind of like approached me and asked me to pitch things to them, but then the longer it went on, it seemed like the less seriously they were taking me, until eventually I was like, oh, it doesn't really seem like they're all that interested. Maybe they were initially, but then that kind of wore off. In retrospect, I don't even know if it's, you know, having a TV show, I don't even know if that's something I would even be capable of doing. It seems like it's a crazy upheaval, you know? I don't know if I'm organized enough for it.
He would later work for Nick as a board artist in the episode Boss for a Day on SpongeBob. This would be the only public industry work he's done due to NDAs and the like. Info about the Nick pitches were first revealed on his second channel, as well as his former podcast, Weisenheimers, with the other co-host being Israeli animator, Yotam Perel.
And it wasn't great. It was kind of just us shooting the shit every week. Sometimes we would get into really petty arguments, and I think we kind of realized that doing a show together was not good for our friendship. I think it put too much strain on our friendship, if that makes sense. And we're still friends, and we still talk, but I think me and him we're better friends than we are co-hosts, if that makes sense.
Max would also work with Mega 64 to animate bits of their podcasts. This was before the likes of Game Grumps and Only Plays Animations, so Max G was a pioneer in animating guys who talk about video games on the internet. I salute him. Though this was less of a contract thing, and more so Max animating for them as a gift. Alongside all of this, Max created a Tumblr called Japoac, where people can ask questions to a parody version of Applejack from My Little Pony. At this time, the show was huge, and Max was quite a fan of it. What spawned this would be the infamous .mov series. .mov being the file extension commonly seen on macOS systems. Each episode would revolve around a character from the MOP series, with it concluding with swag.mov.
But
Nobody cares! You stupid cunt! Shut your fucking mouth! Oh my god! Shut up! Shut up! A million times shut up! I'm going to kill you! Shut up! Nobody cares.
So I watched his animations as a teenager. I kinda skipped the series, cause I didn't watch MLP at all. Though let me tell you, they were a big deal. With each episode getting millions of views, he'd be invited to Brony and non-Brony conventions as a panel host. While he was there, he would sell exclusive posters and prints, and also showing some exclusive cartoons he would later release on his channel. During a panel at Equestria 2012, Aaron Hansen would come up halfway through, and this would be the first time he and Max ever met IRL. The voice actor for Pinkie Pie, Andrea Liebman, even signed a drawing he did of the character she voiced. As for the conclusion, the last episode of the series took over 7 months to create. However, he wasn't able to monetize it. Well, at first. This was due to a random public domain sound effect that someone claimed at YouTube, I guess. As for his prior characters, June would make an appearance in Spike.mov, as well as Mickey in an old Tumblr post. While some would assume the series is created out of malice, he did have a general appreciation for the show. But as for convention appearances, he hasn't gone to one in quite a while.
They're really embarrassing, but I kind of had fun doing them at the time. I enjoyed more so just like sitting at the booth that I would be assigned to and like talking to people as they come up, rather than being in an audience and having the audience try to come up with questions to ask me and have them all kind of like not be very good at it. But that's the thing with like a panel, is there's this weird kind of audience creator dynamic, and it's almost always just super, super awkward. I mean, have you ever sat down and watched a panel? They're not great. They're truly not great.
As for Aaron's stuff, Max would have been a guest on Game Grumps around early 2014. While he did get to hang out with Aaron, Barry, and the Mega 64 fellas, he got so violently ill he couldn't film. He was supposed to be on Table Flip within the episode Survive. Although he couldn't get on, Max would later make a Game Grumps animate that they put on their channel. Some of his most popular works outside of MLP would be his parody series, those videos. His most viewed ones revolved around Mario, Five Nights at Freddy's, and the Cuphead characters. Within these, Max would experiment mixing 2D and 3D. While he would use Flash for the former, the latter would be done with Autodesk Maya. Think of it like Blender, but you have to pay for it. One of his earliest 3D works would be recreating the King of the Hill intro within the program, modeling an animation done by Max, with additional work by Christopher Lucirio. His first 3D parody, this would be The Night Before Christmas. This was mainly due to him wanting to emulate the stop-motion style of the film. One of his more impressive works would be Isabel Ruins Everything, which required a lot of compositing and a lot of character designs for one cartoon. He would hire the VFX artist Esther No for additional modeling. She would be seen in other works that he's done, such as Jerry, Wacky Game Jokes for Kids, and his MLB series. He also got YouTubers Boxy and Markiplier to voice in it as well. Wow.
please, just see the fountain. See? There it is. It's nice, right?
Why am I naked?
Art like this is vital for the cultural enrichment of our community.
Why am I naked? Seriously, Isabel, why am I naked?
Within all these works, however, there was something missing. The parodies got him good views, Max wanted to make something a bit more. While he has made original cartoons in the past, he wants to try something new, with all that he's learned up to this point. Something funny, yet somewhat thought-provoking. Something 3D, but also something 2D. This would be Brain Dump. One of the earliest postings of Brain Dump comes from his Patreon. February 23rd, 2016, he shared a 3D model of himself inserted the show. Look, there he is! And the original concept was called Max Gets Baked. In this version, he would have recorded himself while high, then responding to himself while sober in another recording.
And then the way that would translate into a cartoon is I would have two versions of myself, one being the sober Max and the other being the intoxicated Max. I'm lucky that I didn't go down that road.
He created the show out of necessity as he wants something relatively simple to animate, so with that, he wanted to start reviewing things. As if stuff always coming out, there'd be a never-ending supply of video topics to talk about. 2 additional characters would be added to the show for banter, those being Burnbot as well as Goofball. While it was the addition of the latter character that really tied everything together, Burnbot was actually last-minute inclusion. He wanted a character similar to Showbiz Pizza or Chuck E. Cheese to be the thing that shows the clips or visuals for his cartoons.
I think when I came up with the idea of adding Goofball to the show, that became the thing that I was enamored with the most, and I realized that like just 2 versions of me wouldn't be as interesting as a show with one version of me and another different character entirely. And then the show was conceptualized as a show about me living with a cartoon ghost and arguing with him a lot. And we have a complicated relationship.
Boy, I sure do wish I had an ant farm.
Will you just get a fucking ant farm already?
Goofball's design was tweaked from an unused OC named Francis the Phantom. As for inspiration for the formats, there really wasn't anything in particular, so comparisons to the Nostalgia Critic and AVGN would be coincidental and unintentional, as the show is more inspired by sitcoms that you like to watch, often while animating. The first episode aired September 2nd, 2016, and was like a standard movie review with a lot more animation. Max opted to fully animate his character in Maya, with additional features animated in Flash. The character Goofball would be entirely 2D, being animated in Flash as well. Rather than full exports, Max would export in batches, giving it more of a slideshow animation feel rather than fully smooth movement. Once it's animated, the separate layers would be put in After Effects for compositing and Premiere for final edits. For a review show, this was pretty high production value. Over time, Max would get out of the standard reviews and into more wacky antics between him and his faux roommate, Goofball. This was due to his regrets with a lot of earlier episodes.
Because Brain Dump was kind of a bad phase that I was going through where I thought people would actually care about my opinion. And something I've realized about opinions is they have a very short shelf life. So when I watch a lot of Brain Dump, and especially like the older stuff, I think to myself, I don't have any of these opinions anymore, because the world is such a complicated place that your opinions kind of have to just change constantly. You're just constantly in flux. And I don't want to be like some kind of, I don't want to be like the internet armchair critic guy. You know, I don't think that's me. I don't want to be the angry critic who screams and rants and raves. I don't think that's me at all.
Despite the original incarnation of the show being simplistic to make, such as the Doctor Strange episode taking about 5 days to create, he wasn't really fulfilled in this creative endeavor. Mixed in with the fact the episodes are topical movies at the time, the cartoons quickly became disposable media. Outside of perhaps the storyline he was creating with the trio, there really isn't much incentive in watching the old reviews of, I don't know, The Witch? And one of his reviews, the one about Sonic's redesign and the first movie, the Sonic movie, the live action one, even got pulled due to copyright, so there's worry on that end too. And so pivoting more towards general topics and idea videos gave him more creative freedom, though in turn, it meant it would take a lot more time to create each piece. His longest episode to date would be the 45-minute video about Apu. Harikanda Baloo created a documentary about how Apu was used to bully him, as growing up, people were ignorant about Indian culture, and Apu was the only representation on TV that Hari had. And so watching the documentary, Max would make his video. General statements that literally everyone in the town is a caricature, and from his perspective and his community, people thought Apu was a cool character that literally embodied the American dream. And this got people talking about his video and what it means for the character. But Apu was run off the show and the writers never thought about him ever again. Oh well.
Obviously, I still really like Apu, so I'm not crazy about it, but at the same time, it really was like they just had no other choice. You know, when somebody shits in the pool, then everybody has to get out of the pool, so to speak. If they make a documentary about how you're a bad person, it doesn't matter if the documentary makes a compelling argument or not. The fact that the documentary exists means that there's going to be a large group of people who think you're a bad person now. Or we're like, you know what, we should retire Apu, he's really bad. Or maybe they were like, well, you know, we don't want to, but we have to because somebody shit in the pool. But, you know, who really knows? I don't know. I have no way of knowing. I think I'll probably always be an Apu enjoyer. He's a very endearing character to me. He's very cute. There's something cute about him, I think.
His most recent episode in the Brain Up series would be Fascism, and this cartoon took about a year to make. It's a surface-level story regarding Max's role as an artist, someone who wants to create something deeper, but isn't capable of being that person.
I'll never be an artist trying to enact positive social change. I'm completely out of my depth. I'm just some dumb, bald Italian guy. I mean, what would a bald Italian guy know about fascism? All I ever wanted was to make a living doing what I love. But it's just impossible.
Within the series as a whole, much of the arguments between him and Goofball revolve around his insecurities as a person, ramped up to 11. Added with the higher production value, there's also the fact he isn't alone in creating these videos. At the end of each cartoon, you will see the credits. Anything from 3D models to lip syncing, there is often additional help, such as the artist unluckyfay, whom I spoke with about their works. She was hired straight out of college and was the first person to lip sync for Max's Brained Up animations. She even got to design and model assets for the kitchen set. Max would later create a lip syncing guide to make it easier for future creators to work with him. This collaboration was great for Faye's portfolio, to say the least. Though of all the time put into Fascism, the cartoon, not the concept, it still got pretty average views. And so seeing this, he took a hiatus from the series, trying to think of how to change it. The current form in which he creates takes too much time to produce, while also yielding very low returns on his investment. His most recent cartoon on his channel about Mike Tyson would be a deviation to his Brained Up series. He took what to most would be a normal Twitch VOD and added more to it. Inspired by the likes of Oni Plays and Game Grumps Animateds, while this isn't the next incarnation of the show for his channel, it's rather a stepping stone into something new. The question of, is this what my audience likes, weighs heavy on creators like Max. This is mainly due to the fact that he uploads every few months, so trying something new is a gamble that has very high risk. Luckily for this cartoon, it has a positive like to dislike ratio, and while not entirely like a brain dump, his audience was still open to see him create. On that note, I talked with Max about his overall works and what it means to be an artist. What legacy does he have, and is there something more in the future to look forward to? My cat bear just shut up. Did you know Max also has a cat? His name is Wolfo. When you've been making art online for 20 years, you start to think about what you created and what you'll be known for. Thus far, we talked about a lot of his more mainline works, those being .mov, Jerry, and even his most current series, Brain Dump.
Well, that's something that I worry about, because I don't want to be remembered as a guy who made schlock, but it also seems like that might just be inevitable at this point. I guess maybe there's nothing I can properly do about it. And that is frustrating in a way, but it's also like, what can you do? What can be done? I try, I try to be like the kind of creator who feels like he's doing something substantive, but what is and is not substantive is going to vary from person to person anyway. I think more so I'm just like interested in entertaining people as best as I can, if that makes sense. I don't even know if I'm like the person who's qualified to make people think about things. But I just want to give people like a good experience, if that makes sense.
When I spoke with Speederoo regarding his former animations, we talked about a cutoff date. This would be the earliest year in your works that you point to and say to here to present is what I'm proud of. For him, it'd be around 2014. For Max, it'd be around 2020.
I feel like my cutoff year would be even more recently. I think it might be like 2020. I think like pretty much everything I've ever made has just been a bunch of schlock at this point. But I think that's also good in terms of my evolution as somebody who makes things, because it just means that I am not at the place where I used to be, which is good, because it means I'm improving. And unfortunately, it means everything I've ever made is garbage now, in my eyes, but it also means that I never have to worry about making garbage ever again.
When it comes to what he is most known for, it's mainly parodies or talking about other forms of media. For his older works, despite being beloved by fans, wacky game jokes for kids and Jerry serve more as staples in his life, rather than works he would show off nowadays. Even his review episodes of Brain Dump have the inklings of, I'm glad I made them, but I don't quite like them anymore. This including his video about a poo. And this is mainly due to his change of outlook onto the world.
But the show, where it eventually ended up was kind of had nothing to do with reviewing anything, which is what I prefer in the long run. The original plan with Brain Dump was I'm going to do half of the episodes are going to be me reviewing shit, and then the other half of the episodes are going to be, I would call them like the sitcom episodes, where it's just like me and Goofball doing some bullshit, or me and Goofball arguing about X, Y, and Z. And as time went on, what I realized was, I hate all of those review episodes. I hate all the critical analysis shit, but when it's me and Goofball just arguing, then it's always fun, and I always like it. And so that, those episodes kind of started to take over a lot.
Over time as a creator, you will make things you come to regret. Back in the day, Max would be known for his shock jock humor of the early 2000s and 2010s, and this led to a lot of regrettable art pieces. If you talk about Max in capacity on Twitter or YouTube, you will get comments saying, isn't this the guy who made Steven's Universe? Which the person saying that already knows he's the guy, but just wanted to bring it up, I guess. Part of his shock jock humor came at the expense of stereotypes and minorities. This is also citing his other Steven Universe drawing, that I can't say the name of for obvious reasons. These aren't works that Max is proud of, as it resides as a reminder of his more edgy self, one that has burned bridges and contacts because of it.
The world has changed in a lot of ways in the past 10 years, mostly for the better, but also for the worse. In one of the ways that the world has changed for the worse is that people are too divided right now, and everyone seems very angry. And in a world like that, in an environment like that, I want to do my best to be like, and this is the hippy dippy stuff, but I want to be a force for unity and not division. And one thing that can bring people together is comedy and cartoons. Like, they can both do that. But for comedy to do that, it needs to be accessible comedy. It can't be edgy or offensive or put anyone off. And so that's, why I'm trying to be more well-behaved these days and not do the shock jock thing anymore. And also because, unintended side effect of my horrible offensive humor, there's a very large swath of people out there who think I'm a bad person now. And there's really nothing I can ever do to change their mind. And, cost-benefit analysis, you don't want that. You obviously don't want that. And I also don't want to, harbor an audience of bad people. But I have no way of vetting my audience. So I'm not interested in, trying to bring on an audience of problematic people or bad people.
So if these art pieces from nearly 10 years ago, and some even nearly 20, it leaves a sour taste in the mouths of new potential viewers. And the channel that re-uploaded his old podcast added a disclaimer about what was said at the time, not erasing it, but presenting it how it was. He's retired this type of humor a long time ago, as it's not something he wants to create anymore.
Like at the end of the day, I just have to factor in like there are a million different kinds of humor that you can do, and not doing offensive stuff is just like one. I still have access to so many different kinds of humor that I can do. So like just losing access to doing jokes about Jews or like saying the N-word, like who cares? I don't care. I don't need to do that. I'm also kind of like not that person anymore. I don't really relish offending people, and I don't know if I think it's worth it. I'm, like I said earlier, I'm the hippy dippy pacifist. I'm the guy who wants everyone to get along, and I want I want to live in a society that's not so divided anymore. And a lot of people want that, but nobody ever makes an effort towards that. And I think it would be good if more people did.
In one's legacy, there isn't just what you produce, but also how you turn down the process. And I spoke with Max about his current life. If the life that he chose was one that he's happy with, or satisfied in choosing.
Like when you're young, you think, what do I need this for? What do I need that for? What do I need money for? You will need money. I assure you, you will need money. Because if you don't have money, you'll be stressed all the time. You'll live in a constant state of stress. Need to have money so you can do things like take a girl out on a date, or do something fun with your friends, or go on a vacation. Those are the important things in life. Those are the things that are worth, making memories over. Whereas I look back over my life and it would just be like one extended cut of me just sitting at a computer, hunched over. It's depressing. But someone had to do it, I guess.
A lot of these issues have already been talked about on Brain Dump. The feeling of wanting to create a good art, but not having much to say. Or if you have something that you think has meaning, but in the end is just surface level. Or the idea that in trying to create, you burn the life you have around you. The likes of Brain Dump ballooned out this necessity to create for profit, and into something that took too much out of him, causing relationships, both friend and partner, to falter, which led to a self-destructive cycle of sadness and loneliness. One that if you took a snapshot of every day of his life, it would just mainly be him in front of a PC, unwavering as the days go by, no time for friends, and no time for vacations. This is compounded with the idea that many people have seen his old unsavory works believe there's no redemption for such a lowly character.
If you make an edgelord joke in public, that joke will be heard by two types of people that you don't want to hear that joke. And the first type of person is someone who's going to give it like a bad faith interpretation, and they're going to use it to assume that you're a bad person. And in their defense, that's not even like the craziest conclusion to reach. And these are people, I try to remind myself, these are people who don't know me. And so they don't know the kind of person I am. They don't know that I'm like a relatively normal guy who's like not an extremist or anything. But they're going to give you that bad faith interpretation of your edgy, shock humor. And then the other type of person that you don't want to hear that joke is just the person who's just laughing at it on a genuine level. So if I do some joke about like Jewish people, to me, the reason why that's funny is because the people who are anti-Semitic believe really, really crazy, ridiculous things. So it's almost like the anti-Semitic people and their ridiculous beliefs are the real butt of that joke. But that joke will also be heard by people who don't understand that and are themselves like anti-Semitic. And I don't want them to enjoy my humor on a level that I didn't intend it to be enjoyed.
And when I asked him if he had advice for creators, he said something not often heard, but perhaps needs to be said.
What is most likely is that you will spend your life struggling to make money. And I don't know if I think it's worth it. I think you'll be happier if you are a person who has art maybe as a hobby, but you have a job that's more stable and allows you to do things with your life like, cultivate relationships and start a family. And if you want to be an artist, it's just going to make that more difficult. But I think things like stability and cultivating relationships and starting a family in the long run will make you more happy than pursuing your passion ever will. That's the answer that they don't want to hear. Everyone who wants to be an artist wants to be a rich, famous artist, but it just happens for so few of them. Most of them are just scraping by. And I'm one of those artists who decided to become an artist, but ultimately it didn't pay off and it hurt me, and I've had a much worse life because of it. So you could be an artist like Rebecca Sugar and have this huge popular show that everyone really loves and make $1 bajillion, or you could be like Max and make, a cartoon about a ghost that drinks a glass of cum and it's just schlock. I think having a plan B is probably more useful. So like my example of being a cop or being an x-ray technician, if I had done that, I still could have been an artist in my free time. And I think I would still have passion for it if I did.
The Greek Stoic Epictetus said, "Happiness begins with clear understanding of one principle. Some things you can control, and some things you cannot.
I don't think I could ever disagree with a guy named Epic Titties. But still, I don't want to be a YouTuber. They have yellow teeth and they're always burping.
Then why are you a YouTuber?
Because it's all I have.
But in all this doom and gloom, there is still light at the end of the tunnel, or at the very least a positive path that Max can take. When it comes to creating cartoons, for the longest time on his channel, that's all that he had. However, with his newest video's release, it opened up doors to new opportunities. With streaming on another platform like Twitch, it allows him to create without the pressure of making a full animation. Such long gaps between upload are not sustainable as a creator, either financially or physically. So with this new platform, it gives him something to look forward to. Challenges with the new frontier. Exploring new avenues in creating gives the artist inspiration they couldn't have thought about before. Taking a break from what you usually do to something else can get one motivated to create once again. And with streaming, he's had fun creating graphics as well as pre-canned animations for talking. While not a replacement for his main channel, it's something that can give him and his audience some solace and interactivity. The fear that an audience can leave after X amount of time is prevalent for many creators, especially for the works of Max who take quite a while to create, even when satisfying to see as an end result. This new avenue of animation creation can lead to Max being more financially stable, as another aspect of creating is if you literally have a place to work at. With long gaps between projects, there is that worry of whether or not you can pay rent, or keep the electricity running through your tablets. And in this form of audience participation, it inadvertently gives him a more human approach as a creator, forgetting of course that brain dump is more of a exaggerated version of himself. For the longest time, Max had been creating out of necessity, and this sapped a lot of the enjoyment and creating animations, especially to work on a cartoon for so long, only for it to do average on his channel. So when it comes to legacy, we're still in the present, and right now is just another chapter of his life, one that gives him way more freedom than ever before, thanks to his pivot towards streaming. This has worked with prior Newgrounds animators like Crystal Neo and Aaron Hansen. Okay, those are Let's Plays, but you get what I mean. With their success in these avenues, it led them to invest in other projects that they want to pursue. With the path that Max has chosen, there was a lot of mistakes, though with any online creator, there never really is the end, but rather the and. Even despite everything that's happened to him, it's impressive to see that after all these years, he still wants to create. That no matter what, this is the life he chose, and there's no turning back. While you can see that as a negative, there can be some positive to that. While you cannot change the past you've experienced, you can choose the path you want to go on today. And when I ask my audience what they think of Max, after all these years, there's still people waiting for his new upload, and no matter the terrible things he's done in the past, they're still hoping for him to move on and make something great. I wait to see how streaming treats him, and I look forward to the next chapter of his life. Hey, and thanks for watching, and be sure to support me on everything. Literally, everything. My Twitters, YouTube channels, and Patreon. Also go check out my animated podcast, Assault JJ. Until next time, keep on drawing, and don't forget to have fantastic.